10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at prutas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at prutas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at prutas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at prutas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI at Home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at putas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI at Home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at putas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI at Home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at putas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production.
Excited ka na ba para sa isa na namang ATI at Home live seminar? Ito ay mayroong 2 episodes na gaganapin sa July 10 and 24, ganap na 1:00 ng hapon. Kung oo, panoorin natin to.
Magandang araw po sa mga patuloy na tumututok sa ating ATI at Home na handog sa atin ng ATI Calabarzon. Para po sa ika-9 at ika-10 nating episode, matututunan natin ang pangangalaga at pamamahala sa free-range chickens na handog sa atin ng ating partner mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm, Ginoong Henry James Season.
Salamat, Love. Sa nakaraan nating mga episodes, ating diniscuss yung pag-preserve ng ating mga gulay at putas. Sa susunod na 2 episodes, atin naman tututukan ang pag-alaga ng free-range chickens na talaga nga namang makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya.
Kaya naman po, huwag na mag-atubili pa, mag-register na sa ating live seminar na Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production. Magandang araw mga ka-ATI at home. Ako si Marian Lobelia A. Parot, ang inyong livestock focal person ng ATI 4A. Muli ay magkakasama na naman tayong matuto sa isang live seminar na handog sa inyo ng ATI Calabarzon. Para naman po sa aming mga suki at sa mga bago pa lamang makikinig, narito ang dalawang episode ng Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production. Upang ilahad ang dahilan ng ating programa, dahil nga po sa lumalaganap na pandemyang COVID-19, ang ating pong pamahalaan ay minarapat na ipatupad ang regulasyon ukol sa social distancing upang maiwasan ang pagkalat at pagkakuha ng virus. Kaya naman, ang ating pamahalaan sa pangunguna ng Department of Agriculture ay naglunsad ng programang magpapanatili at magpapaunlad ng agrikultura sa gitna ng dinaranas nating krisis ngayon. Ito ang Ahon Lahat, Pagkain Sapat, Alpas kontra COVID-19 o mas kilala sa Plan Program na may layuning masiguro ang food availability at masustain ang produksyon ng pananim at paghahayupan habang laganap pa rin ang pandemya. Ang Agricultural Training Institute Region 4A bilang training and extension arm ng Department of Agriculture ay nakikiisa sa pagpapatupad ng nasabing programa at para sumunod din sa protocol na nagbabawal ng pagdadaos ng mass gatherings, inulunsad ng ATI 4A ang programang ATI at Home, isang online seminar kung saan matututo rin ang ating mga kalahok habang sila'y nasa loob ng kanilang mga tahanan. Noong mga nakaraang seminar, ay natuto tayo ukol sa tamang pagtatanim at pangangalaga ng ating tanim na gulay. Sa pagkakataon kong ito, sama-sama tayo matuto ukol naman sa pangangalaga at pamamahala ng ating alagang hayop. Para sa unang episode, malalaman natin ang mga sumusunod. Tamang pangangalaga at potensyal sa pag-aalaga ng free-range chickens, tamang pabahay sa bawat growth stages, health management practices, at biosecurity. Excited na po ba kayong matuto? Pero bago ang lahat, isa lamang pong paalaala na kung sakaling humina ang audio, ay gumamit po tayo ng earphones o lakasan ang volume ng ating mga devices. Kung magkaroon ng pagbagal sa streaming ng ating live seminar, maaaring i-check ang inyong local connection. Para naman sa ating mga katanungan, maglalagay po kami ng question box at sasagutin ito ng resource person sa ating Q&A portion. Hindi na namin patatagalin pa at alam naming excited na kayo. Narito na po ang ating tagapagsalita, Ginoong Henry James Season mula sa All Seasons Nature Farm para sa unang episode ng
Exciting Nakita, a live seminar on free-range chicken production. Magandang araw sa kanilang lahat. Handa na ba kayo matuto? Tara na! Magandang araw sa lahat. So let's start the session na. No? So we do have an outline in terms of what we're going to discuss for the first episode. First and foremost, we're looking at the experience of All Seasons Nature Farms. No? So All Seasons Nature Farms has around 7 or 8 years worth of experience in free-range poultry production. Nag-start po kami yan early 2011, starting off with around 150 hero broilers. No? I say hero broilers kasi of the 150 heads that we had, dahil hindi po kami marunong nun mag-alaga, ang nabuhay lang po ay around 27. Alright. So, yung pong ganun pong kadami ang basically tuition fee na binayaran namin. Just so we needed to figure out how we were going to take care of chickens. No? So, for this session, kami na po yung nagbayad ng tuition fee for you guys. No? So, we'll be providing you with a lot of insight in terms of how we raise our broilers, how we raise our layers. In fact, dahil dito sa panahon nga ng pandemya, this is actually one of those things that you can actually do as a part of a livelihood, one of your livelihood options. Okay. So All Seasons, located in Taysan, Batangas. We currently have around 6,000 heads of layers. No, these are all decal browns. For broilers naman, just maybe about cycling around 500 heads ng broilers, no, for our meats. No, these are all free range, and well, basically we raise them as organic chickens. Okay, so moving on, no, we're talking about PNS, or the Philippine National Standard for free-range chicken production, no, under the organic agriculture. No, so all of our discussions moving forward is really based on PNS at a minimum, no. Although there are certain limitations in terms of feed, no, which I will discuss in further detail when we go to the topic of feeds. By and large, we follow the Philippine National Standard, where weights of eggs are concerned, or let's say the way that free-range chickens should be raised. Okay? All right. So, people might ask, bakit po free range? No? Why do we want to go free range? There's a variety of reasons why we want to go free range. No? Um, in the first place, most of the commercial chickens that we eat, yeah, or those who are conventionally raised, are caged chickens. No, when you talk about caged chickens, these are largely, well, raised in around, well, they use chickens which are usually Cobb 45s, which are 45 days. No, but in reality, they are raised with a lot of hormones. They have preventive antibiotics that sometimes the grow period for these chickens is actually around 20, sometimes 23 days, although some people might not want to admit that, no, but it does um, grow fairly quickly, no. In fact, mas mabilis pa po mag-mature ang manok at 23 to 28 days versus yung tanim nyo pong pechay, which is around 45 days, no, before it matures into a leafy green. Okay, so you might expect that there's a lot of chemicals and synthetic chemicals that actually go into those chickens, no. Now, when you say free range as well, these are not caged; these are cage free, no. And then chickens are allowed to go around the pastured areas, um, to basically follow their natural instincts. No? So if they will go look for insects, if they want to eat their grass, for instance, or forage, then they're able to do so. No? So ang quality ng ganitong klaseng chickens, at the end of the day, is mas malasa, because normally you won't cull them at 28 days, but you'd rather cull them at around closer to 56 to around 65 days, no. um, Hindi niyo po kailangan ng Maggi Buyon or ng Nor Cube for chickens, for free range chickens. Bakit? Ang lasa po ng manok ay sa kanyang age. If you grow free range, if you grow your cage chickens at around 23 to 28 days, meat lang po yan, wala pang lasa. Now, as the chicken grows older, that's when you actually get the chicken taste, no? Kaya yung mga free range chickens, yan po yung ginagamit talaga. They excel actually in tinola, yung mga soups, ganyan, because it really brings out the flavor in them. Okay. Alright. So, usually raising chickens can be done in conjunction with other livelihood options, no. If you are, for instance, raising vegetables, having maybe around 10 to 20 heads of chickens might be a good complement to your vegetables. Now, for one, they would provide fertilizer. The waste can actually provide fertilizer for your vegetables. And likewise, for your vegetables naman, if there are rejects, you can actually get them to eat them. No, so it's a complementing business. No, likewise, the barrier to entry for free range chickens isn't exactly too high. Simpleng pabahay lang po natin. Pagkatapos, hindi kayo bibili rin ng commercial feeds, because you can actually make your own. These all add up to having very low cost per kilogram, no, in terms of free range chickens, no. Okay, and definitely, normally, kapag free range, usually conjunction dyan is actually yung organic, no, organic, or it's naturally grown, no, not necessarily organic, but naturally grown chickens. That's also the reason why you tend to actually let them grow to its full term, no. In fact, the Philippine National Standard would happen to require that we grow chickens to around 75 days, no? 75 days, no? Um, yung 75 days na yan, talagang malasa na yung manok, no? The thing is, for free-range chickens, you need to boil them slightly longer than your normal very young chickens, no? Pero again, nandun sa soup stock talaga yung lasa ng free-range chickens, no? And of course, what you feed your chicken results in, of course, if it's safe, natural grains and forage, then obviously when you slaughter them and you eat them, these are again safe food, no, safe and healthy food for you and your family. No? And then of course, if you do have excess, then option din natin po na pwedeng ibenta yan. Okay, so how do we optimize profits, no, in raising chickens, no? So free range and organic chickens. Lahat po ng sekreto dyan nasa feeds, no? It's all in the feeds because if you rely on commercial feeds, pinapakita nyo lang po yung feed mills, no? Unfortunately, but that's a story, no? If you have access to raw materials like rice bran, copra meal, for instance, no? Some of you might opt for azola, for instance, and later we'll talk more about forage. Mababa po yung cost per kilogram for these free range chickens. Ang trade-off lang po niyan ay yung effort nila or the sweat equity we call, no? Kasi pretty much what we feed our chickens is really byproducts. Okay? Byproducts are seemingly waste actually ng activities natin. Let's say for instance nagluto sila ng gulay. Yung mga balat niyan pwede nyong pakain sa mga manok natin, no? Tapos again, as I said earlier, whatever waste byproducts of chickens can be fermented and be used for your vegetables, no? So it's really it's a closed loop, so to speak, right? The chickens eat your trimmings, and then the waste of the chicken goes to the veggies and the plants such that they actually grow better, no? Okay, so moving on. So we talk about some facts about chickens, no? So ano ba talaga yung manok? Manok or chickens, as we call them, is very sophisticated social animals, no? They have a hierarchy, no? So that's where the saying there's a pecking order, no? So chickens, whoever are the ones usually the larger chickens, they're the ones who are actually on top of the hierarchy, no? Bakit? Usually sila yung nambubuli at sila yung kumakain ng karamihan ng feed. Now, unfortunately, chickens are called roosters, no? So, ang kalimitan na tanong, kailangan ba ng tandang ng hens, no, ng hens ang inahin para mangitlog? Ang sagot po doon sa tanong na 'yon ay hindi po kailangan ng tandang, no? So there's two types of eggs that come out of it, no? So kapag hens lang, so hens, whatever happens when they're mature, will start laying eggs, no? Ang cycle niyan is usually around 23 hours, no? 23 hours. So hindi siya malabo na almost every day magle-lay ang egg ang hen. However, having said that, meron niyang day in a week or two, no, once or twice in a week na it will stop laying or it will skip a day, no. All right. Now, yung hens now the eggs that are not fertilized, right? These are called table eggs, no. So wala pong similya. The nice thing about table eggs is they last longer. So normally pag table eggs, minimum po niya, at least, especially if it's refrigerated, the minimum is around 4 to 5 weeks, right, before it spoils, no? The other one naman po is if some growers opt to have roosters in the same pen as hens, so you come up with fertilized eggs. And fertilized eggs, some believe are more nutritious, no? Personally, I don't like fertilized eggs because the shelf life is shorter. So normally around 10 days lang yan to 2 weeks, it will start spoiling, no? So if you are going for commercial egg laying, obviously you want longer shelf life for your eggs. So the usual formula is to get rid of all the roosters in the pen, no, of your hens, so that you'll come up with all table eggs. Okay, so um, so we've talked about so far. We've talked about why we need to range, right? And we talked about um, yung PNS or Philippine National Standard, which I said we will continue hitting points, no, as we discuss, no, and then I did talk about in general chickens, no, chickens in general. Now, this is a question. This next area, chicken breeds, is usual. Uh, well, I do receive a lot of questions regarding ano ba yung native, di ba? Ano ba yung commercial? Ano ba yung free range, di ba? So we'll try to dispel some myths there, or at least ano yung mga common questions that they usually receive, no? So native chickens na sinasabi, there's a lot of breeds, no? A lot of breeds, and one of them is actually the Parawakan, which is large game fowl, no? It's large game fowl normally around sa Western Philippines and Palawan. And again, it's called native, pero these are the larger ones, no? Lahat naman po ng chicken, alright, is flavorful for as long as they get to live up to around 70 days. Yun yung ano, yun yung common, no? So ang commercial breeds, like the one that we use in all seasons, if they're broilers, for instance, if they happen to reach at least 70 to 75 days, they actually taste very similarly to native chickens, no? So ang sikreto po nun ay hindi sa breed, it's a matter of how long they have actually lived, no? So again, you have Parawakan, you also have the Darag, all right, which is more on central Philippines, no? You also have the Banaba, which is endemic naman to Calabarzon, all right. If you would notice, each chicken has its own parang it's best for something, all right. So it's the same for hybrids, for commercial hybrids that we use. So in all seasons, for instance, we make use of decal browns, all right, which lays brown eggs, by the way, all right, for our layers, no. For our broilers naman, we use this one, Saso, or the Hubbards, all right. So this is a commercial breed, a hybrid actually, from France. And they excel as broilers. And they are very similar in terms of body structure dun sa tinatawag natin na Cub 45s, no? Cub 45s, o yung tinatawag natin 45-day-old chicken, no? Whereas broilers like the cubs would excel in laying eggs, no? So as yung meron nga tinatawag sa caged versions ng decalb, they're called decalb 400s. No, ano yung decalb 400s? It means that in the entire lifespan of around 18 to 24 months, they will lay 400 eggs. So ganun siya. Those are really the engineered hybrids that will provide that much eggs, no, on a confined environment. So what they do is they just eat day in day out and lay eggs. All right. And in our circles, in free ranging chicken communities, those are not humane. Okay, because they are not able to actually do their, they're not able to follow their instincts. So free range naman, if you would ask how many eggs, for instance, is a target, okay? Normally, if you get around 250 eggs, 250 to 270 eggs in a year, that's a fairly alright target na, for free ranging layers. Okay, now. So going back, so for Sason naman, alright, or the Hubbards, for this one naman, usually we call them around 60 to 65 days, and they would weigh around 1.5 kilograms, at the time that you want to slaughter them, Kapag 1.5 kilograms naman, you slaughter them at that weight, it will give you anywhere between 1.1 to 1.3 kilograms of dressed chicken weight, which is the usual standard, for chickens that you find in grocery stores or in supermarkets and in normal markets, usually if it's too small, then walang masyadong laman. If it's too big naman, normally nagrereklamo yung namimili kasi mahal siya, so again, there's a specific, for every specific breed, there's a specific kumbaga use for them. Now, there's also this Chinese chicken or ulikba. So it's a fancy breed, all right, and then it's believed mostly by the Chinese to that it has medicinal benefits. So yung white plumage niya, pag tinanggal mo yan, it's really dark siya, no? It's just dark. Okay, so again, this is Cub 45. Now, Rhode Island Reds are, one of the heritage breeds, no? So there's this parang train of thought, no? Train of thought, or at least or belief, for instance, na they would want to be a bit more purist, diba? So what they some growers would happen to focus on ranging native chickens. In that case, they'll go for Parawakans or Banabas, diba? Or a mixture of such. Some growers would happen to go for the heritage breed, so Rhode Island Red, um, so Jersey Blacks, etc. No? So ano siya tag dito? Kanya-kanya po silang kumbaga preference, no, ang growers kung ano yung gusto nilang klaseng chickens ang gusto nilang i-raise. No, so again, for all seasons, we decided to go for commercial hybrids that are actually free range or free ranging. No? Okay, so moving forward, so ito, life cycle. So it's getting to be a bit more interesting. No? So why do we need to talk about life cycle of chickens? Because you need to understand ano yung type of care that's actually needed from the day that the egg is laid until the time that you want to either slaughter them or they become productive and they start laying eggs. No? Ang normal habit po for hens is that as soon as they lay eggs, they will basically sit on their eggs or lilimliman nila yung itlog, di ba? But the thing is, if you're doing a layer business, hindi po natin pwedeng, we can't follow the natural course of nature and let them sit on their eggs. So what the quickest way to do that is basically get those eggs and plug them in artificial incubator, as in the photo. All right? So ito yung incubator na yan, this is obviously powered by electricity. There are different capacities ranging from as low as around 40 eggs to as much as around 500 to 600, no, or even larger, no. Of course, the larger it is, the more efficient the incubator is, diba? Yun nga lang, the larger it is, the initial cash outlay is actually higher, no. So as a matter of line of business, no, I know of some folks who actually have incubators and basically nagpapalimlim sa kanila yung mga growers. So what they'll do is they have breeds, no? So they have breeders that lay eggs. They pass it on to a person or to a person or an entity that has incubators. Tapos doon nila pinapapipisa, no? So that's one line of business, by the way, that you can also do, no? But for the most of us, like us, we're basically growers. We don't have breeders, no? And that's a matter of choice. Because we want to service the consumer market. So marami rin nagtatanong sa amin, Henry, after nung session, saan ba kami makakakuha ng sisiw? Ang malinaw pong sagot ay wala po kaming sisiw dahil wala po kaming breeders, no? So the sisiw or the chicks that we have are all F1, no? So pwede nyo siyang and have the characteristics of the parent stock, which means mas mababa po ang performance ng pinipisa na F1 parent stock, no? All right. So again, just for information as well, an egg will take 21 days to hatch. Okay, so sira po yan pag nabasag yan before 21 days, or if it takes too long, the chick actually dies inside the egg, no? So there's an optimum temperature po for the incubator, and that's anywhere between 37.5 to around 37.8 degrees Celsius. No, so that's the optimal temperature para po mapisa ang itlog, no, at the right day, which is 21 days. There's something called relative humidity. All right, yung relative humidity yan dapat medyo basa-basa. There's moisture in the air. All right, para po pag mapipisa na yung chick, okay, makakalabas siya dun sa makakalabas siya sa shell niya, no? Okay, so this is an example of incubator as well. If you take a look at the open cabinet, open cabinet, 'di ba? Nagtitilt yan. So bakit po yan tinitilt? Kasi po, if you keep them to one side, yung chick po has a tendency to actually stick to the shell, and then mamamatay po yan pag kapag it tries to break out. So every 4 hours, yung automated natin na incubators would happen to actually move from side to side just to make sure that the chick is actually always not attached to the shell, no? Parating floating yan in its liquid. Okay, so just for your information as well, no, if you haven't seen an egg, alright, so ito yung parts ng egg, no? So ito yung eggshell natin. Okay, ito, nagtatanong na naman, alin ang mas masustansya, yung puti o yung brown? Parehas lang po yan. Alright, generally speaking, alright? But having said that, alright, the nutrition in the egg is also dependent in terms of what you're feeding your hens. No? So kung pinapakain nyo ay commercial feed or pinapakain niyo ay forage, no? So makikita niyo diyan, yellow is yolk, yun yung yolk, 'di ba? Pero makikita niyo there are some yolks that are lighter, closer to lighter yellow. There are those that are really orange like the Japanese ones, so Japanese raised ones. Yung ganyang klaseng egg na talagang deep yellow and orange, the secret there is to basically feed your hens a lot of forage. No? So a lot of greens, vegetarian sila, no? So heavily vegetarian sila, lalabas yan sa kulay ng itlog. Magiging really yellow, no? All right? So again, those are the different parts of the egg for your information. Okay. Now, next one is for incubation. So for those people who want to check if there's a healthy chick healthy chick inside, okay, or has a potential to have a healthy chick, kailangan po natin ng parang candler, okay? And the easiest way to do that is basically to get plywood, come up with the plywood box, maglagay kayo ng bumbilya sa likod, and then there's a hole. All right? And what we usually do is just, put the egg close to the hole, all right? And then nakabukas yung bombilya para nyo makita kung ano yung laman niya. All right? And then here, this is just for reference, ano yung nangyayari dun sa egg as the chick matures, no? If you take a look at this one, no, halos dark na siya. Ibig sabihin, it's close to being a full chick, no? At around 15 days. Okay, so again, stages of the egg, this is at day 7. Makikita niyo nagkakaroon na siya ng veins, no? At day 12, halos halos opaque na siya, no? And then of course at day 18, it's almost darker na takita. Now normally kapag day 18, what we usually do is we put them in a hatcher. Kasi doon sa hatcher na yon, wala na siya doon sa parang mga trays. Once the chick says, "Oh, I'm ready to come out on day 21," then they'll start pecking on their shells, no? All right? Kasi pag nakalagay siya sa tray tapos nag-hatch siya, baka po siya malaglag. No? So for us with incubators, kailangan niyo po ilagay at around day 19. Yeah, day 19, 18 or 19, ibaba niyo na siya sa hatchers, no, to set. Okay. So, if you're in the business of incubating and then coming up with breeders, no, so you need to make sure that your breeder stock is the best, no. Nasa dugo po 'yan, no. You do not propagate a bloodline that is not good or not that's bad, no. So upfront, no deformities in the physical view of the chicken. Bright red comb yung palong po, all right? So it's not deformed, not discolored, and it's red, no. Dry po yung behind ng ating breeder. Bakit po? Kasi kailangan natin yan, hindi yung ipot niya dapat medyo buo, no. Hindi siya masyadong liquid, no. Hindi po rancid, okay? Mabaho po yung manok, 'di ba? And then of course your breeder stock should be more agile and energetic, no. And shiny feathers, no? Again, this is just for your reference kasi maraming magtatanong diyan, how do I understand or how do I know if a chicken is good or not? So ito gamitin niyo siyang guide. Now, there's also a lot of questions saying ano bang okay, day-old chick or ready to lay ang kunin natin, no? Alright, so as a matter of preference for all seasons, we always go for day-old chicks. Bakit po? Kasi pag day-old chicks, we understand and we're the ones who basically raise the chicks to become hens. So we understand ano yung ano yung protocols that actually raised them, no? Ang problem po kasi sa ready to lay, hindi po natin alam kung paano sila pinalaki. They might be looking like they're mature chickens, pero kapag kulang po yung nutrition nila during their formative months, all right, hindi po sila magiging good layers, no? So that's the reason why we actually have reservations to to buy ready to lay chickens. Okay, so we need to plan out how we're going to take care of our chickens, no? If you happen to start off with day old chicks, di ba? Ito po yung baseline natin, no? So this is the baseline brooding requirement. So ang kalamitan po na ginagamit natin is heating bulbs, no? So bombilya. So if there's a group of chicks, no, for every batch, that you have to make sure that 1 watt po for every chick that's there in a batch. All right. It's better po to spread out the light source. All right. So for the heat is spread across the brooding area, and the heat has to be correct, di ba? And I will show you ano yung symptoms ng incorrect heating for the brooding area, no. All right. So again, just for your guide, it's 1 square meter po for every 50 chicks, no. That is considered the minimum, no. If you overpopulate po your brooding areas, there's a very high chance po na kapag nagulat yan or pag sobrang mali ang temperature, they will stampede. And if there's a stampede, then you will realize that there will be a lot of chicks that would wind up dead. Okay. So, ito po yung indicators natin, no, sa brooding. So pag gaganto, nasa gilid po yung mga chicks natin, ang ibig sabihin na po niyan ay masyado pong mataas ang temperature sa gitna, no? Kapag ganito naman po, nagkukumpulan sila sa heat source natin, then the temperature is too low, masyado pong malamig, so kulang. One way to address this is you have multiple light sources across the brooding area, no, para hindi sila magsiksikan doon sa single source. Dito naman po, there's usually a draft, no? A draft wind, no? So may hangin po nakakapunta doon sa brooding area natin. And in this case, we need to make sure na matatakpan po natin yung mga entry points po ng hangin, no? Well, ng wind, not hangin but ng wind, no? Now, if you have this, then you are just fine, no? So if they are evenly distributed, di ba, masigla po yan, naghahabulan, tuka ng tuka. Normally po kami nagpapatuka kami ng chickens natin, ng day old chickens namin, ad libitum po or pasawa po yan sa patuka at least for the first 7 to 10 days, no? As good practice, no? Kasi yan yung kailangan talaga nila ng nutrition, no? Kaya yan, this is actually the best setup, no, when chicks are uniform across the brooding area. Okay. Water. So when you talk about water naman, it has to be actually hindi lang po daily. You need to clean at least twice a day. Bakit po? Normally meron dyan tumutuntong dun sa feeder water, nalalagyan ng ipot, no, ng manok, ng chick. So dapat yan malinis po parate. Remember po, if their drinking water is dirty, then it's closer na maaring makakain yan ng microbes that actually can kill your chicks, no. At this age, so from 1 to around 7, 1 to 14 days, chicks are very sensitive to handling for one, and very madali pong mamatay, no. So it always has to have food, and they need to have clean water, no? And again, ito po yung optimal brooding temperatures natin, no. As they grow older, you will require a brooding area that is less warm, no. Pwede siya mas mababa ang temperature, no, as they grow older. So this is just an example. Ang ginagamit po namin flat sheet type. So nagdidikit-dikit lang po kami ng flat sheet, no. So we get maybe about 2 or 3 flat sheet. We divide it into 2, tapos dinidikit lang namin ng bamboo stick na para magdikit siya into an oval, no, like this one. All right. If you do that for 2 to 3 na flat sheets, ang kaya niyan i-accommodate is easily around 300 chicks, no? 250 to 300, no? okay na yun. For us, if let's say we just need to sell around 50 to 100 chickens, no, kaya namin yun pa last for maybe at least about 4 to 5 weeks, no, yung ganung klase kadaming supply. You might ask, kasi mortality is an eventuality, no? Even for the best growers, meron pong mortality. Ang target po namin sa farm is 96% buhay. So 4% lang po ang mortality, no? But you will still turn out to be profitable if your mortality is around 10%. No? So kung pag 10% out of 100 chicks, 10 ang mamatay, okay pa po kayo doon. But if let's say 20% po ang mamatay dun sa flock nyo, medyo mahirapan na po kayo makabawi. No? So normally, what we say, if this is your first time, gayahin nyo po kami. We start off with a small number of chicks, diba? And then that's your experiment. No? That's your experiment. Especially if this is your first time brooding chicks. No? Okay, so ito naman yung brooding houses natin. This is actually more of plywood naman siya. Okay siya, maganda siyang tingnan. Actually, yung ganitong klaseng mga cabinet type. Ang problem lang po nito, paglinis. Unlike po yung flat sheet type, no? Flat sheet type, ang lilinisin lang namin dyan is actually the floor. No? So, the floor is usually concrete. Meron po yung ipa. So, ang ipa po, or shell na yung rice hull, is actually warm. No? So, kailangan parati merong fresh na rice hull. In fact, kapag nililinis po namin yan, ang ginagawa namin dyan, pagkalinis, pinapa-ferment lang ng konti. Pagkatapos pwede na rin pong patabayan sa mga sa mga crops namin. Okay. So ito naman yung mga cabinet type. Ito yung mga cute actually if you actually have very limited space, then in this case this is actually an option for you. Raised po yan primarily because to keep your chicks safe po from animals po, no. Pwedeng daga, pusa or aso, no. And then of course chicken wire. Alright, but normally what we'll do is we actually have something below rin as well. Kasi baka masungkit yung mga sisiyo sa ganitong klaseng design. Okay? So again, this is brooding natin. Brooding niya. And just samples po, no? Of, ito po yung sinasabi kong parang clips. So this is actually more of plywood. Pwede rin po to for your flat sheet. No? So iniipit-ipit lang yan. And as the chicks grow, ang ginagawa lang, ini-expand lang namin yung circle. No? Ayan po for a lot, no? So for a lot of chicks. Alright? Do not try this many chicks if you are not used to growing. Dahil po, pagka po nagulat yan o nagkamali kayo sa temperature, maghanda po kayo sa mortality. Okay. So, usually, 1 to 21 days po yan nasa loob ng brooding area for broilers. Bakit? Broilers are hardier because they have bigger, mas bulkier sila, no? But for us, for layers, no? For layers, we keep them to around 32 to 35 days inside the brooder. Kasi mas balingkinitan sila, mas smaller yung breed usually ng layers. We keep them safe, no? Inside the brooder, no? But for broilers, after 21 days, medyo mas malalaki na yan. Pwede nyo na silang, pwede nyo na sa limited space, no? Katulad nito, no? Still semi-enclosed, alright? Not exactly the ranging area, but good enough, basically, to, for them to basically forage to some extent, and then meron na yung mga sunlight. Okay? Now, ito, dahan-dahan po natin gagawin yan. Hindi po yung biglaan ilalabas nyo na lang siya, tapos bahala na sila. Normally, ang gagawin yan, magdidikit lang po kami ng parang kulob na area or at least a cage area wherein they can still go in and out dun sa normal parang brooding areas nila. No? So, this is another example. No? Again, we are limiting or the area wherein they can actually roam around. Okay? Ayan. So, again, for broilers, after 10 days in the hardening area, pwede nyo na silang pakawalan sa ranging area. Ranging areas for us is also enclosed. Alright? Meaning, meron pong net kami. No? Usually, yung net po na color green, ang eye po niyan is around 1 to 1.5 inches. No? Kasi pag larger than 1.5 inches, yung leeg ng chicken makakapasok na sa loob ng butas at 2 inches. Ang problema niyan, kapag na-startle siya, they'll get entangled in the net and they will basically suffocate. Okay, kaya remember, if you're gonna use that normal net po na green, 1 to 1.5 inches lang po yun. Okay, so space requirement, okay? So again, 75 days because that's what the PNS demands, no? But again, if you're not particular sa PNS, pwede na po yan i-harvest at around 56 days, no? 56 days okay na, diba? Pero of course, as the chicken grows older, as like I said earlier, mas okay yung lasa, no? The older it is. Kaya lang, meron naman, bakit patagalin na lang natin to around maybe 90 or 100? Pag umabot na po yan ng 100, 110, especially for broilers, kailangan nyo na po dyan ng pressure cooker. Kasi matigas na po yan. No? You basically allow them to range and then they build the muscle and then kukunat na po siya. No? If you stray too far from 75 days. Okay, so anong kailangan space requirement? It's 1 chicken per 1 foot. Alright? 1 chicken per 1 foot or 10 chickens to 1 square meter. Kami po sa farm, we limit them to 3 chickens to 1 square meter. Bakit po? Kasi gusto po namin na mas maraming gagalawin sila. No? Mahirap po kasi pag nagsa-stampede for instance or wala silang masyadong magalawan. No? So we opt, but that again, that's our protocol. But the PNS says, this much is fine. Okay? So again, in free-range chickens, they have access to open air and sunlight and they have an option to basically eat fresh grass, insects, and worms. No? Again, ito example of a ranging house. Alright? Example of a ranging, ito talagang bubong lang talaga tapos open yung sides. For us, there will be some example when we deal with housing, on the topic on housing, makikita nyo kung ano yung mga nasa loob ng bawat ranging house. No? Alright, so this is an example naman of fences. Ito po yung this is actually more of metal based, no? Pero pwede rin gamitin nyo, as I said, yung color green. No? Green nets. Diba? Yung iba ginagamit ay bamboo poles or kawayan. Kami po, we're using GI pipes. BI or GI pipes. Kasi po, matrabaho ang magpalit po ng ranging area yung mga poles po. That's the reason why we opt for metal, no? Or steel bars. All right. Again, ayan. Now, ito po, this is applicable for broilers, yung up to 75 days, diba? So yun yung sinasabi nga namin for broilers, it's a lifetime of luxury and one awfully bad day. No? So that's for broilers natin. Now for layers, yan naman, mas mahaba ang, they expect the lifespan is longer, obviously. So a lot of people would ask us how many months will your hens start laying. Ang sagot po dyan ay 5.5 months po. Yung mga early mature, mabilis mag-mature, sa 5.5 months or 5.5 months, they'll start laying eggs. And they're productive to around 2 to 2.5 years. No? Depende lang po kung magaling kayo mag-alaga. At saka kung hindi nyo pinapwersa po mag-lay ng egg parati yung chicken. No? So, yan po, everything is, hinges, no? The quality of the hens hinges on proper nutrition right from the start. Okay, so that's the reason why hindi po natin tinitipid ang pakain po, especially yung yung chick boosters natin, or at least yung pinapakain natin in the first 3 to 4 weeks. Important po that you actually give them the right nutrition. And it will give you better, they will add more weight for broilers, and for layers, they will become more productive chicken layers. No? Okay, so ito, up to 2 years nga, as I've said, yung sa layers, no? You need to make sure that nests are kept clean, di ba? Kasi yan, minsan naiiputan po yung loob ng ating mga, ng ating, yung paitlugan. So, dapat po, nililinis po yan almost daily, no? Okay. Ito, yan. So, for layers yan, so we will have some videos later, no? On how we clean eggs, diba? And how we classify them, diba? And ito po, sinasabi na, for eggs to last, diba? It can't be kept in our room temperature in the Philippines. Kasi po, mataas po ang room temperature ng Pilipinas, no? Ang ideal temperature po dyan is actually cold. Normally up to around 21 degrees po sana, 21 to 22 degrees at most, di ba? If eggs stay in direct sunlight or at least matagal po nasa 26 to around 28 degrees, mas mabilis pong mag-deteriorate ang quality ng eggs. Okay? Ayun, again, some tips po sa layers natin. There's the length, so parang halaman actually ang hens, no? The longer the sunlight, the better is egg production. Kaya po during the summer, sobrang glut po o masyadong sobrang production ng hens natin during the summertime. Kasi po yung the length of time natin ng sunlight is actually longer. Tapos kinakapos naman po tayo sa production usually starting the burr months to around February. Primarily because the length of the day is actually shorter. So hens and chickens generally are called photosensitive. No? So the more light there is, the more productive they are. The less light, then obviously they won't lay as fast. No? Okay. So ito yan. So this is what we use no to classify eggs. Maraming sa mga growers tinatamad pong mag-classify. Sasabihin nila, sige, per tray is one flat price regardless. No? Our experience is if you manage your flock well and they lay larger eggs, dapat po nating itinor. O pag sinabi ng tinor, or at least dapat nating i-classify, no? So from PV po, which is below 50 grams, to all the way to 71 grams and up. This is, by the way, following the Philippine National Standard for egg classification. No? Normally, kapag tininor po natin yan, and then you try to sell at large and extra large, usually you can actually get a premium from it. But the thing is, the drawback there, or at least the trade-off is, you need at least 1 or 2 people to basically weigh each egg. No? So, candle the egg, and then weigh the egg. Diba? To classify, no? Para more or less consistent yung trays of eggs natin, no? So again, good eggs, no, clean and free of stain or dirt. Alright, so tanong nila, ano pong panlinis natin sa mga stained eggs? Gumagamit lang po kami ng wet rag, no, basang-basahan, tapos i-rub lang namin yung offending stain. Alright, ano yung mga rejects? Pagbasag, merong lamat, okay, off shape, masyado siya matilos, o kaya masyado call for that. Alright? Or maging purist kayo. Ang sa akin, I actually selected to basically beef up my biosecurity, including the protocols for vaccination, so that at least, diba, my investment is secure. Now, that's also the reason that I moved from dominant CZs to decal browns, no? Which is actually more commercial hybrids, but they actually perform better than, at least from our experience. Of course, there are other growers I know who would say otherwise, but again, it's a religion, di ba? Kanya-kanya po natin diskarte kung ano yung mas okay sa ating experience. Alright? So anyways, yan. So biosecurity, tama-tama, di ba? Sa pandemya, always wash your hands. Parating sanitizer yan. The same goes for people who actually go into your pens. Dapat malinis po yung footwear. Normally, there's a foot bath for that. And then, dun sa ranging area, usually, ayaw namin ng mga stray wild birds po. Kasi usually, those are vectors for diseases. So, usually, binubugaw namin talaga siya, or at least, merong, yung iba naglalagay ng transistor radio. Alright? Now, may radyo po siya dyan. Diba? Tapos, to basically chase away those wild birds. No? Now, important po, if you have problems with your flock and you cannot explain why, di ba? Please report it immediately. Importante po na sinasabi niyo po natin sa municipal agriculturist natin or veterinary office that your flock has problems. Okay na yung mag-false positive or wala naman nangyari o baka nagkamali lang kayo ng protocol versus yung pala meron ng avian flu. No? Wag naman sana. Pero important po that we raise the alarm fairly quickly so we can do the necessary precautions. No? Mahirap po talaga. I mean, it's a responsibility of every grower that as soon as there's problems with the flock and you cannot explain it, seek help po. No? Okay? Wala naman po nagbabawal sa atin na humingi ng tulong. Okay. Ayan. So, housing, ayan. So, range house samples lang po natin. No? So, examples lang po nito. Will display. So, example lang po yan. Ayan. So, this is actually yung water tank po natin. The water tank is important po kasi we used to spend at least 3 hours changing water gallons, no? So, ito po, ayan. Let me pause that for a while. So, ito po, from that tank, meron po mga wires na yan, dire-diretso po to our automated drinkers. Bell drinkers lang po yan. No? So, ang paglinis po nito is fairly quicker. Mas mabilis po versus yung mga galon lang na nabibili po sa feed supply. No, dati po sa dami po ng aming painuman, maabot po yan ng 3 oras yung mga tao namin. No, so let me pause na ito and this side. Hang on. Yan. Alright. So ano po yung right ratio? Sabihin niyo ng drinkers sa ating ranging house. Ang maximum po dyan ay 100 chickens per bell drinker. Optimal po is around 60. No? So, the more chickens that you have to make sure that there's one drinker for around 60 to 80 birds. No? Pero ang maximum po dyan is again 100. No? So, we opt to go for around 75 to 80. No? Para po mas accessible ang tubig. Especially during the summer months, important po sa ating chickens that they remain hydrated. Otherwise, totoo po ang sunstroke sa manok, no? Ang heat stroke, no, sa manok. And sometimes, usually, medyo marami namamatay pagka kulang po sa tubig talaga. No? Okay, so, okay na siya. Ayan. Alright, so this is just a simple ranging house, no? Just some samples po. Alright, just for your, just for reference. I think there's some videos of our ranging houses. This is actually more elaborate. Sa amin po talagang poste lang, tinukudan lang po ng yero at yun na po yun. No? So examples lang po natin yan. So this is a cage, pwede for hardening, for hardening. And then ito po, for layers naman po yan, for layers. Sample lang ng feeders. No? But usually you do this for smaller volumes of chickens. It's usually the tray feeding pa rin. Cart yan, no? So ito yung nagmo-move naman po yung buong ranging, yung kanilang kulungan, 'di ba? So pag exhausted na yung forage or yung grass, inililipat lang nila yung yung buong kulungan, no? Okay. Ayan, so again, vegetarian yung yung chickens, no? Again, the key to yellow yolks is actually feed them more vegetables. So we also have, so their last topic is actually more on vaccination or health protocols. For chickens po, it's fairly simple na naman po yung protocol natin, especially if you're not averse to vaccination. Unang-una po dyan, usually at most 7 days, we use B1 vaccine po, no, anti-Newcastle's disease, between 1 to 7 days. If you are on ground zero, when I say ground zero, at marami pong NCD incidents po sa area nila, usually kami po nilalagyan po namin on day 1. No? Pinapatak po namin sa mata rather than water. Bakit po? Mas mahirap po yung sa mata, kaya lang you make sure that every chick is actually vaccinated. Isa pong weakest link lang dyan, tutuloy-tuloy yung NCD, no? Kapag water, no? So kapag sa water supply nyo lang nilagay yung vaccine. No? So that's NCD, B1. But as you have a Lasota booster po ng 14 days, no? Then for broilers, yun na po yun. Wala na kaming ginagawa for broilers. So this is just 2, no? So simple for broilers. For layers, it's a bit more, there's a bit more things that you need to do. Dinideworm po namin siya just before they start laying eggs, which is on the 3.5 to 4th month. Dinideworm po namin siya. So, naglalagay yung dewormer, and then, again, dire-diretso na rin siya. Yun lang po yung difference. Now, the thing is, sabi nyo, are there natural ways to deworm, no? Or at least to, deworm chickens, no? Usually po, kakawate po or yung ipil-ipil, no? Pwede pong ipakain yun, no? So those are natural dewormers for livestock actually. Not just chickens, even for other ruminants pwede rin po yun, no? From a natural standpoint, normally sa protocol namin on day 1, nagdidikdik po kami ng moringa leaves or what you call malunggay. Hinahalo po namin sa murang leaves ng bamboo, ng kawayan. Dinidikdik po namin siya pagkatapos yun po yung una namin pinapainom sa aming day-old chicks. No? It continues for at least 3 to 5 days bago usual water lang ang binibigay namin sa kanila. So at least from our end, it's normally good to fortify yung immune system using those concoctions, no, with our sa ating mga chicks. So that ends our session for today, and we will proceed with our Q&A.